Hi there. I'm Maddie. At my own promotion party, the one I thought was for me, my boss gave the role to someone else. Right there, in front of everyone. And I smiled. I toasted. I clapped. But inside, something cracked. I spent 5 years building that company. Stayed late, trained people, fixed messes no one else wanted. And then, just like that, I was invisible. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because what came after, the lies, the silence, the betrayal from people I trusted, it went deeper than any promotion. Tonight was supposed to be mine. I spent hours choosing the right dress, curling my hair just enough, even rehearsing my smile in the mirror like a fool. This night wasn't just another company dinner. It was the night. The one I'd worked 5 years for. I arrived early, watched the servers light the tiny golden bulbs overhead, saw the name cards laid out across the long white tablecloth. My name was in the center, right next to Marston's. I took it as a sign. Every inch of me buzzed with nervous anticipation. For 5 years, I showed up. I cleaned up messes that didn't belong to me, stayed late without being asked, helped new hires feel like they belonged, even when I didn't feel that way myself. I played the long game. I waited my turn. Marston had said it more than once. "You're next, Maddie. I see everything you do." So I believed him. The room filled quickly. Chatter, laughter, the occasional pop of champagne corks. Everyone was in high spirits. Why wouldn't they be? Sales were up, bonuses were on the table, and tonight someone was about to be named our new senior manager. Everyone knew it. I felt it. Marston stood at the head of the table, glass of wine in one hand, his signature smug grin in place. He tapped the glass with his fork, gently, rhythmically. The room silenced like someone had hit pause. My stomach flipped. He looked around the table and smiled. "Tonight," he began, "I want to recognize someone who's truly raised the bar. In a short time, they've brought fresh energy, creative insight, and a level of leadership that's rare." My heart pounded. I tried to breathe slowly, look calm. I even leaned forward a little, just in case the photographer caught my reaction. He continued, "It's not often we see someone step in and make this kind of impact, in just 3 months. 3 months? I blinked. Marston turned slightly toward the other end of the table. "Lyra," he said, raising his glass, "you've done more than we could have hoped for, which is why I'm thrilled to announce your promotion, senior manager, effective immediately." Applause broke out instantly. Glasses clinked. Someone whooped. I sat frozen, smile faltering mid-rise. My hands clenched beneath the table, knuckles white around the stem of my champagne flute. I heard someone say, "She deserves it!" and another voice go, "Well done, Lyra!" The blood drained from my face. 3 months. I'd built half the systems this company still used. I'd rewritten training manuals, recovered client accounts on the brink of collapse, mentored Lyra for God's sake. And now I was watching her soak in praise meant for me. Marston finally looked at me, like he'd only just remembered I was there. "And of course, Maddie," he added, his voice a shade too loud, "we see you too. Your consistency, your loyalty, always appreciated." That was it. No title, no acknowledgement of the late nights, the missed holidays, the birthdays spent at my desk. Just a pat on the head, like I was a well-behaved pet. Then he smirked. "Maybe you could take a page from Lyra's playbook. Adaptability is the name of the game these days." I swear the room tilted. Someone at the far end laughed too loud. Lyra blushed and tried to wave it off. "Oh, stop," she said, but the damage was done. That line, "Take a page from Lyra's playbook," it echoed in my ears like a slap. Marston knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't an accident. It was a message. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I clapped. I smiled. I even leaned toward Lyra and said, "Congrats." Because that's what women like me are taught to do. Be gracious. Be small. Don't make a scene. But inside, something broke. I barely tasted the rest of the meal. I smiled and nodded through conversations I wasn't part of. I laughed at jokes I didn't hear. My body was present, but I was somewhere else, replaying every meeting where Marston had praised me, every time he'd said, "Just hang in there a little longer." Liar. I thought about the email I'd drafted weeks ago, back when I first felt something shift. I hadn't sent it, just saved it in drafts. Just in case, I told myself. But maybe I'd known. After dessert, I slipped out early, unnoticed. The air outside was cool and sharp. It felt like freedom. I stood on the curb for a long minute, phone in hand. I opened my inbox. Found the draft. Subject, resignation, effective immediately. I hovered my finger over send. I wanted to push it. I wanted to walk away. But I didn't. Not yet. I don't know why I stopped myself. Maybe it was hope, some stupid, stubborn part of me, thinking this might all still be a misunderstanding. Or maybe I wasn't ready to burn it all down. Not yet. I barely slept. My pillow still smelled like the hairspray I used for the party, as if it hadn't fully accepted the night was over. I got dressed in silence, skipped breakfast, and walked into the office before most of the lights were on. It felt like walking into someone else's life, familiar, but wrong in ways I couldn't explain. The front desk girl greeted me with her usual fake cheer. "Morning, Maddie. You're early." I managed a smile, tight and clipped. I made my way past rows of empty cubicles, past the break room still humming from the overnight fridge. My desk was exactly the same, as if the night before hadn't happened, but everything inside me felt cracked, off balance. I sat down, opened my laptop, and stared at my inbox like it might give me a reason not to leave. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I was tired. Maybe Marston just made a poor decision. People mess up. My dad used to say that when Mom caught him lying. "It was just a bad call, babe. I'm only human." Somehow, that never made it okay, did it? At 9 sharp, our team gathered for the Friday sync. Marston strolled in 5 minutes late, coffee in hand, like he owned the air around him. The way people laughed at his dry jokes made my stomach twist. "Let's keep this short," he said, settling in at the head of the table. "I know we're all riding high off last night." He glanced around the room like he was proud of himself. "I just want to highlight one incredible piece of work that really pushed our last campaign into the win column. Lyra," he smiled. "Your innovative approach to the digital rollout, that's what made the difference." My eyes shot up. "What?" "That rollout, the concept, the content flow, even the pitch deck, was mine. Every chart, every graphic, every late-night tweak. I had done it. She had helped, sure. She reviewed a few slides. But the entire backbone came from me. People clapped. Someone said, "Nicely done." I sat frozen. My throat didn't tighten. My chest didn't ache. Instead, I felt a strange hollowness, like my body was there, but I had quietly stepped out of it. Then came the line that snapped me right back in. "That kind of forward thinking," Marston added, "is what leadership looks like." Leadership. He didn't say my name, didn't even glance my way. But I felt the weight of what he was doing. It was calculated. That's what shook me. It wasn't a slip. It was a statement. When the meeting broke, I gathered my things slowly, trying to make sense of it. Inez walked past, leaned in just enough for me to hear. "Wait, didn't you lead that campaign?" I gave the smallest nod. "Yeah, I did." Her eyebrows drew together. She started to say something else, but hesitated. "That's weird," she muttered, then walked away. Weird. That's one word for it. I walked to the kitchen for coffee I didn't want, just to avoid people. Lyra was already there, standing by the counter, chatting with Rachel. When she saw me, she offered a sheepish smile. "Oh, hey, Maddie. I was just saying how the rollout was really a team effort. You laid the groundwork." I stared at her, expression flat. She didn't sound guilty. She sounded coached. Then Marston's voice floated in from the hallway behind us. "That's what I love about Lyra. She doesn't just follow a plan, she owns it." The words hit like ice down my spine. I didn't say a word. just walked back to my desk and opened my personal folder. I pulled up old emails, time-stamped strategy notes, early wireframes, drafts I had sent weeks ago. The evidence was there. But what was I going to do? Send a PowerPoint titled, "Proof I Did the Work"? I thought back to the night I stayed until midnight tweaking that landing page while the rest of the team drank at some rooftop happy hour. I remembered the look on Marston's face when I first showed him the strategy. Impressed, nodding slowly, saying, "Now this could work." And now it was Lyra's win. That was the moment something inside me stopped pretending. I didn't storm into his office. I didn't send the email. Not yet. But I stopped trusting smiles, and I started paying attention. And what I began to uncover next made my silence dangerous. I didn't need anyone to say it out loud. The signs were already there. Quiet, subtle, but deliberate. I started noticing little things, like how the weekly strategy call I used to lead was suddenly rescheduled, and I wasn't on the new invite. Or how the email threads about upcoming initiatives included names I barely recognized, but not mine. Even the Slack channel I had created for the fourth quarter campaign, archived without a word. I knew it wasn't paranoia. It was a pattern. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. People get shuffled around, roles shift. But there's a difference between change and erasure. I began paying closer attention, tracking meetings, email chains, calendar invites, watching how decisions were made, and more importantly, who was in the room when they were. One morning, I walked past Inez's desk and casually asked, "Hey, did they move the Q4 Ops planning meeting?" She glanced up from her screen, hesitated, then frowned. No, it's today at 3. "Oh, weird," I said. "I didn't see it on my calendar." She bit her lip, clearly uncomfortable. "I think they switched it to a smaller group. You're not on the list?" My stomach sank. I walked back to my desk without saying a word, opened my access settings, and checked the group permissions. My name had been removed from the committee entirely. No message, no explanation. It wasn't an oversight. It was surgical. That was the day I stopped trying to be patient. The following week, I saw something that made my jaw tighten. Marston assigned a high-profile pitch, one I had been preparing for weeks, to Matt, a junior analyst barely a year out of grad school. I'd already met the client over Zoom twice, even sent a follow-up deck. When I asked Marston about it, he didn't blink. "We thought Matt might bring a fresh energy to the table," he said, shrugging. "Clients like seeing new blood." I stared at him. "You mean young?" He smiled like I was being difficult. "Just trust the process, Maddie. You've had your turn." I wanted to laugh. My turn had been 5 years of quiet consistency, of covering for people like Matt when they forgot deadlines. Now, suddenly, he was the future. I walked into the meeting room later that afternoon and watched Matt fumble through a half-prepped pitch. Marston nodded along like he was watching a prodigy. I sat at the far end of the table, invisible. It wasn't that I wasn't seen. It was that I was being replaced. Not because I wasn't good, but because I was no longer convenient. After that meeting, I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I just went back to my desk and began collecting things. Emails, time-stamped project documents, screenshots of team chats. I opened a private folder on my desktop and labeled it, "If Needed," and then I copied it to an external drive. I wasn't preparing for a tantrum. I was building a record. One night, well after most of the floor had gone home, I sat staring at my monitor in the dark. The only light came from the screen and the city glowing through the glass windows. The silence was comforting, clean, honest. I thought about all the times I stayed late, fixed what others broke, and swallowed my voice to keep the peace. I remembered how Mom used to say, "Sometimes, to keep the family together, you have to be the quiet one." She said that every time Dad forgot her birthday, or came home late, or pretended not to hear her crying in the kitchen. I had carried that same silence into this place, and it was killing me. That Friday evening, as I packed my things for the weekend, Marston walked past my desk with a smirk and clapped Matt on the shoulder. "Now that's what next-gen leadership looks like," he said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. I didn't even turn around. Instead, I clicked on the folder marked "If Needed," dragged it onto my external drive, and ejected it. I didn't know what I would do with it yet, but I knew this. I wasn't going to keep waiting for someone to rescue me. I was done waiting for fairness to find me. I was done waiting for fairness to find me. The thing about holding it together every day is, eventually, the seams give. Since the promotion slap, each morning felt heavier, like I was walking through air thick with suspicion and fake smiles. Every click of a keyboard, every glance exchanged in a hallway felt loaded. I kept my head down, mostly to avoid giving anyone the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. But deep down, I knew I wasn't staying quiet out of dignity anymore. It was strategy. I was listening, watching, waiting. Then came Monday. It started like any other. I got in early, poured myself burnt coffee, and opened my laptop. My inbox had 32 unread messages, most of them noise. But one subject line caught me. Recognizing Agile Leadership, Q4 Direction. It was from Marston, sent to the entire division. I opened it slowly, already knowing something was off. His tone was polished, almost warm. As we shift into Q4, I want to spotlight the kind of leadership that reflects the future of our company. Adaptability, innovation, and the courage to challenge the status quo. So far, typical Marston buzzwords. Then came the real punch. Lyra has consistently exemplified these values. Her ability to pivot, execute, and lead with a modern lens has driven results worth emulating. In contrast, we must be mindful that clinging to rigid systems often stifles growth and ultimately becomes a barrier to progress. My name wasn't in it, but I might as well have been printed in bold. The message was clear. Old methods, old voices, like mine, no longer mattered. And Lyra? She was the future, all packaged in a perfectly professional email with just enough deniability to be called harmless. I stared at the screen, heart pounding not from surprise, but from the sick familiarity of it. It reminded me of how my brother used to tell our mom I was overreacting every time he went through my stuff. How he'd smile and say, "I was just organizing, chill," and somehow I'd end up being the problem. This was no different. I didn't reply. I didn't forward it to HR or scream into the void. I just sat there and let it burn. I scrolled through the comments piling up under the message, "Well deserved, Lyra," and "We're lucky to have her," followed by a handful of emojis. And still, not one person asked the question screaming inside me. Where was I in all of this? Inez passed by my desk about an hour later. She leaned in without looking directly at me and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded, barely. Then came a ping. A private message from Chelsea on the marketing team. That email was cold. Just wanted to say I noticed. It was the smallest thing, but it mattered. That someone else saw it. That I wasn't completely insane. Still, the air around me felt like glass. Fragile, sharp, ready to shatter. Around lunch, I slipped away to the restroom and locked myself in the last stall. The noise of the office faded behind the bathroom's sterile silence. My hands rested on my thighs. Still, heavy. I didn't cry. I hadn't in weeks. I think I forgot how. Instead, I seethed. I gave this place the best years of my life, I thought. I canceled vacations, missed birthdays, let relationships fall apart. All because I believed loyalty mattered. And what did they give me? A footnote in someone else's highlight reel. I leaned my head back against the cold wall and whispered, "Not anymore." That evening, as I was packing up, I saw Marston walking out of the conference room. Alone. I didn't plan it. I just moved. Like my feet had already decided for me. "Got a minute?" I asked. He looked surprised but smiled. "For you?" "Always." We stepped into the hallway near the glass doors. I kept my voice calm, measured. I read your email. Yeah? He gave that salesman grin. Just trying to show appreciation where it's due. That's what leaders do. I nodded. Appreciation's great, but you might want to be careful about the shade you throw in the process. His brow twitched. If there's one more message like that, I said slowly, I won't just leave this company. I'll take everything you pretended wasn't mine, and make sure people see who really built it. He didn't say anything, just stood there blinking, like I'd spoken a language he didn't understand. I turned and walked away. Turns out, he took that as a challenge. A week passed, quietly, too quietly. No more digs in public emails, no sly remarks. Just silence. The kind that hums beneath your skin like a warning. Then, Monday morning, my calendar pinged. A meeting update. I opened it with a flicker of hope, thinking maybe someone had finally remembered to do their job. Performance review. Rescheduled, to be determined. Reason. Scheduling conflicts. Third time this quarter. Same excuse. I stared at the screen. My hand hovered over the trackpad for a second. Then I clicked delete. The window vanished, but the fire it lit inside me didn't. I stood, grabbed the folder I'd been updating for weeks, and walked straight into Marston's office without knocking. He looked up from his laptop almost amused. Maddie, hi? Everything all right? You tell me, I said. 3 delays, no explanation, and the year's almost over. He leaned back, that same corporate casual tone ready on his tongue. We're still compiling feedback from your peers, cross-checking project outcomes. You know how it is. You've had 5 years of feedback, I said, setting the folder on his desk. All of it's right there. Client retention, campaign success, onboarding results, employee mentorship. Everything I've done while you kept dangling that title like it was candy on a string. He didn't even open the folder. This isn't personal, Maddie. You're right, I said, voice flat. It's calculated. His smile faltered. You've been using bureaucracy to keep me in place. You know exactly how much weight that review holds for promotions, raises, credibility. And you've postponed it over and over like my work doesn't matter. Or like I don't. He tilted his head, folding his hands. I think you're getting too emotional. You don't want to make impulsive moves right now. I almost laughed. My father used to say the same thing every time he forgot a promise, I said. Don't overreact. It's not a big deal. But when you keep doing it, that's not a mistake. That's a message. Marston's eyes narrowed. You need to be careful, Maddie. You start escalating this, it can burn bridges. Doors don't always reopen. I leaned in slightly. I'm not looking for open doors anymore. I'm building my own. He tried to say something else, but I was already walking out. Back at my desk, I sat down and exhaled. Not relief, not anger. Something deeper, something final. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had facts, I had receipts, and I wasn't asking for a seat at the table. I was about to flip the table. A few minutes later, a small icon popped up in the corner of my screen. Read, receipt. Your message, Q3 reporting accuracy, has been opened. Timestamp, today, 11:42 a.m. By Admin Override. That email was from 6 weeks ago. There was no reason anyone should be reading it now. Then came another alert. Security check in progress. Admin access detected. I froze. They were digging, so they were done pretending too. The alert stayed on my screen longer than it should have. My cursor hovered over the little red X in the corner, but I didn't click it. I just stared at the words, admin access triggered, like they might blink away if I waited long enough. They didn't. I clicked into the back end of my account, the audit logs tucked away in a hidden panel most employees never think to check. I'd only learned about it because I'd trained new hires before, back when I was still trusted, back when I still believed I belonged here. There it was. 3 instances of internal override logins tied to my credentials. One last Thursday, one over the weekend, one this morning. I felt it first in my stomach, a churn, a clench. Not fear, not shock. Just something like disgust. That quiet kind of disgust you feel when someone you once trusted rifles through your drawers and then acts like you're overreacting. I stood up slowly, grabbed my badge, and headed toward the IT department. The hallway felt colder than usual, like the walls themselves were watching me. When I walked into the tech wing, the room hushed. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to make me sure I'd interrupted something. Ben, a junior support tech, glanced up. "Hey, Maddie, everything okay?" I smiled, polite but tight. "Quick question. Was there any routine maintenance done on my email account lately?" He paused. I could see it in his eyes. He knew, or at least he'd heard something. I mean, sometimes there's back-end syncing for access logs, archiving, that kind of thing, he said, choosing each word like they were eggshells. Right, I nodded. But would that include an executive override? He froze for half a second, then said, "There was a request, from above. We just follow access protocols." I held his gaze. "I get it. It's never personal when you're the one holding the key, right?" He didn't answer. I thanked him, turned, and walked out. My steps were calm, my face was still, but something inside me had clicked into place. Back at my desk, I pulled out my external drive and opened the folder labeled "If Needed." I added screenshots of the override logs, labeled them, time-stamped everything. Then I opened a blank document and began writing my resignation letter. It started clinical, cold. Then I stopped, deleted 2 paragraphs, and rewrote it. Not softer, but sharper. I kept it factual, professional, but not apologetic. Next, I drafted another document. This one was titled Workplace Misconduct, Internal Breach, bullet points, evidence links, policy violations, a clear timeline, no emotion, just data. No matter what they'd find in my inbox, they couldn't erase the pattern they'd left behind. At 2:12 p.m., I sent the resignation letter to HR. I CC'd the legal team. The subject line was simple: formal resignation, effective immediately. I ended the message with one line: "I will be available for documentation handover. I will not be available for further discussion." Then I logged out. People stared as I stood up and calmly placed my company badge in an envelope. Inez watched me from her desk, wide-eyed. A few others stopped pretending to type. Nobody said anything. I didn't owe them a goodbye. As I zipped my bag and slung it over my shoulder, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Is this Madeline Pierce?" a familiar voice asked. "Yes." "We've been waiting for you," he said, smooth and clear. "Can you start Monday?" It was Dorian Hale. And just like that, I wasn't walking out empty-handed. I was walking into something bigger. The second I stepped off the elevator and out into the cold Seattle air, I sent one text. "Need 10 minutes. Meet me in the back room." Inez replied within seconds. "Give me 5. We met in the small, forgotten conference space near HR, glass-walled, quiet, and usually empty by design. I dropped my bag, plugged in my drive, and told her everything. The admin overrides, the deleted meetings, the surveillance, and the call. "Dorian Hale?" she whispered, brows lifted. "The Dorian Hale?" I nodded. "He's already offered. I start Monday." Inez didn't smile. Instead, she exhaled through her nose and said what only real allies say. "Good. But before you go, you need to see this." She pulled up her own laptop and opened a file she'd been quietly collecting. "I've been digging," she said. "Something's always felt off about Lyra's file." She clicked into the HR system and pointed. "Look, no application timestamp, no interview notes, no internal referrals. It's blank until this." A system log appeared on the screen. Manual insert. Executed by admin, sat exec override. August 2nd, 2023. I blinked. That's 2 days before Lyra started. Then she said it. "Her last name used to be Ryland." I froze. Inez nodded. Marston's ex-wife's maiden name. It hit like a punch I should have seen coming. The sudden rise, the rehearsed humility, the constant praise. Of course. That's why she got it all handed to her, I said slowly. It was never about her being good. It was about him protecting bloodlines. Inez's eyes met mine. And hiding it like a coward. I stood there for a moment, letting the truth settle into my bones. Then I opened my laptop and began typing. I titled the document, Leadership Ethics and Internal Conflicts of Interest. I attached the admin log screenshots, the HR anomalies, the chain of performance reviews skipped, and my own resignation letter. The timeline comparison was brutal. 5 years of documented wins versus 3 months of executive favoritism. By noon, I sent the memo directly to the board. Then I did one more thing. I requested a farewell Zoom. Told HR I wanted to thank the team, end things on a positive note. They approved it without question. At 4 p.m., faces filled the screen, 50, maybe more. Marston joined 5 minutes in, smiling like he hadn't tried to erase me from the company entirely. I cleared my throat and spoke calmly. Thank you, everyone, for the memories, for the growth, for the laughter, and for the silence. Because it was in that silence that I learned the loudest truths. The chat paused. I won't name names, I don't need to, but I want to leave you all with something useful, something about power, and how it never looks like power when it's dressed as a compliment. Someone unmuted and whispered, "Oh, wow." I smiled. If you ever feel like your voice is too small to matter, remember this. The ones who silence you are always the ones most afraid of being heard. Then I clicked End Call. 2 minutes later, Inez messaged me. The board just went into an emergency session. Marston's face looks like he saw a ghost. I powered down my laptop. I didn't want to see what came next. Not yet. For now, I stepped outside, let the wind hit my face, and allowed myself, for the first time in years, to breathe. That night, I slept for 9 hours straight. For the first time in years. There was no tossing, no staring at the ceiling while replaying conversations, no anger tucked beneath my ribs, keeping my breath shallow. I just rested. And when morning came, I opened my eyes to golden light spilling across the hardwood floors of my new apartment. My body felt different, like it belonged to me again. 2 weeks had passed since I walked out of that glass tower with nothing but a flash drive and my spine intact. And today, I walked into something better. Carter and Associates wasn't flashy. It was sharp, lean, built by people who still believed in doing good work for the right reasons. The office smelled like clean wood and ambition. Dorian met me near the elevator, hands in his pockets, smile relaxed. "You made it," he said. "I told you I would." He nodded once. "Let's get started." We were in his office later that morning, going over project histories and upcoming initiatives, when he leaned back in his chair and said casually, "You know, I actually sent you an offer 6 months ago." I looked up. "What?" He shrugged. "Through your work email. Never heard back. Figured maybe you weren't ready." My pulse quickened. "You sent it where?" "Your old company account." I froze. That was around the same time things started getting quiet. When meetings went missing, when Lyra suddenly bloomed. "Can you forward me that original message?" I asked. "I just want to check something." Dorian did. I opened my personal backup logs, found the audit trail for that date, and there it was. Message received. Deleted by admin override. No forwarding rule set. I stared at the screen. They hadn't just passed me over. They actively blocked my exit, tried to trap me, keep me small, invisible, like I owed them something. I didn't say a word to Dorian. I just smiled and said, "Thanks." That week, it started. First, a call from Dawson and Company. "Maddie, we heard you moved. Can we talk?" Then, a message from Graybridge Capital. "You're at Carter now? Our account's up for review." By Friday, 3 of the largest clients I'd brought in over the years had reached out. None of them needed convincing. They weren't loyal to a company. They were loyal to people. People who did the work. People like me. I didn't gloat. I didn't post a single thing online. But I did open a blank draft to Marston. I typed, "I know about the blocked offer. I know about the files. I know about everything. You underestimated the wrong person." Then I stared at it and deleted it. He knew. That was enough. Late that afternoon, I stepped out onto the rooftop terrace. Seattle's skyline stretched in every direction, painted in deep autumn gold. The wind tangled in my hair, and I closed my eyes, not to escape, but to feel fully present. My phone buzzed. Inez. She sent a single screenshot. Internal memo. Board decision. Effective immediately, Marston Whitmore will be stepping down from his role as executive director. This decision reflects recent leadership missteps and concerns raised by clients and internal stakeholders. An interim will be appointed until further notice. Beneath it, her text. You did it. It's done. I smiled. Not because I won, but because I'd finally let go of needing to. But victory wasn't the point. Freedom was. December came in quietly, with frost tracing the edges of the windows and a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. The day I stepped into my new office, corner view, clean desk, my name etched in silver on the glass, I didn't feel like I had conquered anything. I just felt home. There was no tension in my shoulders, no fire to prove myself. People nodded when I passed, not out of obligation or fear, but with that calm, unspoken respect you only earn when they know you've walked through fire and didn't flinch. I opened my laptop, sipped my coffee, and let myself settle. Inez called around noon. It's official, she said. The board confirmed it. Marston's out. Full separation. No return clause. I leaned back in my chair, eyes scanning the city outside. I'm not surprised, I replied. And I wasn't. But I also didn't celebrate. I didn't toast to karma or blast some empowering playlist. I just sat in the quiet and let the moment be what it was. He was gone. That was enough. The next morning, an unexpected name landed in my inbox. Lyra Whitmore. The subject line, I'm sorry. I clicked, mostly out of curiosity. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how much was being done behind the scenes. I thought he believed in me. I read the words twice. Then I closed the email and let it sit there, unread again. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a blank note on my desktop and wrote, Some apologies are too late, but forgiveness doesn't always need a recipient. I'd spent so long trying to be seen, to be validated by people who had no intention of recognizing me, and somewhere in the process, I forgot that my voice didn't require permission. It just needed space. This new chapter gave me that. I still caught myself flinching at certain tones, still paused before speaking in meetings, waiting for the ghost of dismissal to show up, but it never did. And slowly, I began to trust the quiet again. One afternoon, sitting in a cafe near the office, I found myself journaling. I used to think power came from being chosen. Turns out, it comes from choosing yourself. I wrote it down without thinking, then added, I used to fear being replaced. Now I know, what I bring can't be replicated. A reflection in the cafe window caught my eye. Mine. Older than I remembered, stronger too. A young intern from Carter passed by, nearly tripping over his own feet as he tried to wave and walk at the same time. I smiled and called out, Hey! If you ever feel small here, come find me. No one builds alone. He nodded, surprised, grateful, and I went back to my coffee. That moment wasn't loud. It didn't need to be, because sometimes the loudest thing a woman can do is stay. Stay grounded, stay clear. Stay in the room when the room once tried to erase her. Before we wrap up this story, let me leave you with something real. If there's one thing I've learned, one thing I wish someone had told me earlier, it's this. Your worth is not up for negotiation, not in boardrooms, not in relationships, not in silence. If they only see your value when you're halfway out the door, that's not a home, That's a trap. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest way to begin again. And maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've felt overlooked, underestimated. Maybe you've swallowed your voice one too many times just to keep the peace. If that's you, I see you. And I hope my story helps you stand a little taller. Now let me ask you, have you ever had to fight for your own value? Have you ever been passed over for someone who didn't earn it? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. Drop a 1 if this video spoke to you. Or tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if this video didn't land for you, that's okay too. Let me know why. Let's talk about it. This space is about honesty, not perfection. If you're still watching and this message touched you even just a little, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's more where this came from, more truth, more stories that matter. And who knows? The next one might just be yours. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep choosing yourself.
Hey there, I'm Linda, a 28-year-old mechanical engineer with a passion for innovation and a knack for getting myself into sticky situations. So there I was, standing in front of Tech and No's gleaming headquarters, clutching my offer letter like it was made of gold. This was it, my dream company, and I finally made it. Little did I know I was stepping into a nightmare. "You must be Isolda," a booming voice echoed behind me. I turned around to see Victor, my new boss, towering at 6 feet, radiating authority. "Welcome aboard. I expect great things from you." I beamed. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." The first few weeks were a dream. I was nailing my projects, impressing Victor at every turn. "Nice work on the prototype, Isolda," he said one day, actually smiling for once. "Keep this up and you'll go far." I practically floated home to my apartment, where my best friend and roommate Zoe was waiting. "Someone looks happy," Zoe grinned, still loving the dream job. "It's everything I hoped for and more." I gushed. But then things started to change. Victor's praise turned to criticism, and his rare smiles disappeared. "This design is subpar, Linda," he snapped one day, tossing my blueprints aside. "I expected better from you." I worked harder, stayed later, desperate to regain his approval. My coworker, Alex, noticed the toll it was taking on me. "You okay?" he asked one late night when I was still at my desk. "You've been here till midnight all week." I forced a smile, just trying to stay on top of things. Then there was Jasmine, always lurking, always competing. "Oh, Linda," she would say, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, "Victor rejected your design again. What a shame." I tried talking to Greg in HR about the pressure, but he just shrugged it off. "Victor's a perfectionist," he said. "That's why we're the best. You'll adjust." The only bright spot was Ethan from it. He'd stop by my desk with a sympathetic ear and cryptic warnings. "Be careful around Victor," he'd whisper. "He's not always what he seems." I brushed off his concerns, focusing on proving myself, until the day it all came crashing down. I was working on a crucial project, running on 3 hours of sleep and way too much coffee, when I made a mistake, a small calculation error. But in engineering, even small errors can be catastrophic. As I stared at my screen, my heart sank. Victor was going to kill me. I had no idea this mistake was about to set off a chain of events that would turn my dream job into a living nightmare. But hey, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I was about to find out just how strong I could be. I stood in Victor's office, my heart pounding as I explained the error. His face turned an alarming shade of red. "Incompetent," he roared, slamming his fist on the desk. "Do you realize what this could have cost us?" "I'm sorry, sir," I stammered. "It won't happen again." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I'll make sure of that." He rummaged through his drawer, pulling out a dunce cap. My stomach dropped. "Put this on," he sneered. "Maybe it'll help you remember basic math." Humiliated, I placed the cap on my head as he marched me out to the engineering floor. "Attention, everyone," Victor bellowed. "This is what happens when you make stupid mistakes." Snickers erupted around me. Jasmine, of course, whipped out her phone. "Smile, Linda," she laughed, snapping photos. "This is too good." Even Alex, usually so kind, looked uncomfortable but didn't say a word. I stood there, fighting back tears as my coworkers mocked me. Memories of Victor's snide remarks, impossible deadlines, and public humiliations came flooding back. After what felt like an eternity, Victor dismissed me. I fled to the bathroom, my hands shaking as I called Zoe. He did what? Zoe's voice crackled through the phone. Linda, that's workplace harassment. I can't go back out there, I sobbed, recounting the humiliation. You have to report him, Zoe urged. This isn't okay. Summoning what little courage I had left, I went to HR. Greg listened to my story with a bored expression. Victor's methods are unconventional, he shrugged. But Greg's response was dismissive. Effective? Maybe. Just try not to make mistakes. Defeated, I returned to my desk, but things only got worse. Victor begins scrutinizing my every move, sabotaging my projects. Redraw these blueprints, he demanded just hours before a deadline. They're not up to par. Jasmine, of course, reveled in my downfall, constantly reminding me of the dunce cap incident. Hey, Linda, she'd whisper, showing me the humiliating photos on her phone. Wouldn't it be a shame if these leaked? Even Alex's apology felt hollow. I'm sorry, I laughed, he said, avoiding eye contact. I didn't want to be next. I understood, but it still stung. Weeks passed, and I was at my breaking point. One night, alone in the office, I started packing up my desk. Maybe it was time to quit. As I reached for a photo frame, I knocked over a stack of files. Victor's files. Papers scattered everywhere, and as I gathered them, something caught my eye. Financial reports that didn't add up and emails about creative accounting. My engineer's mind kicked into gear. This wasn't just bullying, this was fraud. I thought about quitting, walking away from this toxic mess. But then I thought about the next person Victor would torment, about Jasmine's smug face and Greg's casual dismissal of my pain. No, I wasn't going to let them win. I carefully replaced the files, my mind racing. I had no proof yet, but I would get it. Victor thought he could break me. He was about to learn this dunce was smarter than he ever imagined. That night, I left the office with a new determination. The old Isolda might have run away, but this new Isolda, she was ready for war. From that moment on, I became a secret agent in my own office. Every snide comment, every impossible deadline, every act of sabotage. I documented it all. My notebook became my weapon, and Ethan from it, he turned out to be a gold mine of information. Victor's been doing this for years, Ethan whispered during a staged computer repair. I've seen at least 5 engineers quit because of him. We dug deeper, uncovering a trail of broken careers and stolen ideas. Over coffee, a former employee told me he took credit for my friend's patent. She couldn't prove it, so she left. I realized I wasn't alone. Other current and former engineers started reaching out, sharing their stories. Together, we formed a secret alliance determined to bring Victor down. The real smoking gun came when I stumbled upon undeniable evidence of fraud. Doctored financial reports, stolen patents, overcharged clients. It was a web of deceit that made my head spin. We need hard proof, I told my allies. Something he can't wiggle out of. That's when I hatched my plan. A fake, innovative design, too brilliant for Victor to resist. I worked nights and weekends, creating a revolutionary, completely bogus energy-saving device. When it was ready, I accidentally left the plans where Victor could find them. He took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Linda, he purred, cornering me by the water cooler. I'm impressed by your latest design. I think we should discuss how to present it to the board. I played dumb. Present it? But it's not ready. Oh, I think it is, he smirked. In fact, I've already started the patent process, under my name, of course. For the good of the company. Bingo, I had him. As we prepared our case for the board, Victor must have sensed something was off. One evening, he cornered me in the parking lot, his tone menacing. I hope you remember who gave you this opportunity, Linda, he growled. It'd be a shame if your career ended before it really began. I stood my ground, heart pounding. Is that a threat, sir? He smiled coldly. Just a friendly reminder of how things work around here. The next day, Jasmine approached me, her usual smugness replaced by nervousness. Look, Isolda, she said, glancing around. I know you're up to something. Maybe we can help each other out. I raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I've got dirt on Victor too, she whispered. If you cut me in on whatever you're planning, I'll share it. I considered her offer for a moment. Thanks, Jasmine. I'll think about it. As she walked away, I smiled to myself. The tables had truly turned. That night, I met with my allies one last time. We reviewed our evidence, practiced our presentations, and steeled ourselves for the confrontation to come. Are you ready for this? Ekin asked, concern in his eyes. I took a deep breath, thinking of all the humiliation, the stolen ideas, the careers Victor had derailed. More than ready, I said firmly. It's time Victor learned that karma's a real, well. As we left the cafe, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Tomorrow we'd face the board and Victor. One way or another, things at Tekken No were about to change forever. The boardroom was tense as I laid out our evidence. Spreadsheets, emails, testimonies, a mountain of proof detailing Victor's abuse and fraud. As you can see, I concluded, Victor has been systematically bullying employees and stealing their work for years. The board members exchanged shocked glances. Victor, red-faced, leaped to his feet. This is absurd. Linda is clearly trying to cover for her own incompetence. That's when my allies stepped up. One by one, current and former engineers shared their stories. Victor stole my patent for the cooling system, one said. He threatened to ruin my career if I didn't falsify test results, added another. With each testimony, in his desperation, Victor revealed even more of his misconduct. So what if I push them hard? He snapped. That's how you get results in this industry. The board chairman raised his hand, silencing the room. Victor, in light of these allegations, you're suspended pending a full investigation. As security escorted Victor out, defeated, Jasmine tried to quietly slip away. But I was ready for her. Oh, there's more, I said, pulling out the evidence she had given me. Jasmine here was Victor's accomplice in several of these schemes. Jasmine's face went pale. I was just following orders. The aftermath was a whirlwind. The company underwent major restructuring. Greg from HR, who had ignored countless complaints, was fired. And me? I found myself with a promotion and a new role. Linda, we'd like you to lead a committee on engineering ethics, the new CEO told me. Your integrity is exactly what this company needs right now. Victor's downfall was swift and brutal. His professional reputation lay in ruins, job offers rescinded, industry connections severed. 6 months later, as I settled into my new office, Ethan burst in, waving a newspaper. You're not going to believe this, he grinned. Victor's facing charges for patent theft from his previous job. Looks like karma finally caught up with him. I couldn't help but smile. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. But the real validation came a few weeks later. I stood on stage accepting an industry award for ethical leadership in engineering. This award isn't just for me, I said into the microphone. It's for every engineer who's ever been bullied, belittled, or had their work stolen. Our ideas can change the world, but only if we have the courage to stand up for what's right. As applause washed over me, I thought about how far I'd come, from wearing a dunce cap to leading an ethics committee, from nearly quitting to winning awards. I spotted Zoe in the audience, cheering loudly. Alex was there too, along with many of the engineers who had stood with me against Victor. Even Jasmine was in attendance, looking chastened but somehow proud. As I stepped off the stage, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Former Tekken No executive pleads guilty to multiple charges of fraud and patent theft. I smiled to myself. Victor had thought he could break me, use me, and discard me like so many others. Instead, he'd unleash a force he never saw coming. Walking out into the bright sunlight, award in hand, I felt a sense of peace. The nightmare was over, but more importantly, I had made sure it would never happen to anyone else again. Sometimes, standing up for what's right isn't just about personal vindication. It's about changing the system, one unethical boss at a time. And that's the end of Isolda's journey from humiliated engineer to industry leader. Now here's a question for you. Was Linda justified in setting a trap for Victor with the fake design, or did she cross an ethical line herself? Is it ever okay to fight deception with deception in the workplace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hey everyone, I'm Harper. Just your typical 18-year-old high school senior from suburban Chicago. Or maybe not so typical. Did you finish your calculus homework? Mom called from the kitchen. Almost, I shouted back, furiously scribbling equations. Don't forget you've got your volunteering shift at the hospital tomorrow, Dad chimed in. I sighed. I know, it's all under control. That's basically my life. Study, volunteer, repeat. But honestly, I love it. Now, let me tell you about my sister, Vanessa. She's 22, in her final year of pre-med, and the golden child of the family. Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect everything. Or at least that's what everyone else seems to think. Hey Squirt, still playing doctor with your little volunteer gig. Vanessa smirked, breezing into my room. It's called gaining experience, Vanessa. You should try it sometime, I shot back. She rolled her eyes. Please, I'm already top of my class. I don't need to play nursemaid to pad my resume. That's Vanessa for you, always comparing, always competing. I try not to let it get to me. I've got my own path to follow. Later at dinner, it was the usual Vanessa show. So Vanessa, tell us about your latest research project. Dad beamed as she launched into an impressive explanation of her groundbreaking work. Mom turned to me. Harper, why don't you do something like that? It would look great on your college applications. I forced a smile. I'm focusing on my hospital work right now, Mom. It's giving me real-world experience. That's nice, dear, she replied, already turning back to Vanessa's story. After dinner, I retreated to my room to work on my college applications. Johns Hopkins is my dream, and I'm determined to make it happen. Hey Harper, what you working on? My best friend Mike texted. Just polishing my personal statement for Hopkins. Want to read it? Sure, send it over. As I hit send, I heard Vanessa's voice from downstairs. Mom, Dad, guess what? I just got an internship offer from the Mayo Clinic. The house erupted in cheers. I sighed and turned back to my computer. Suddenly, my heart stopped. My applications, my personal statements, everything was gone. I stared at the screen, panic rising in my chest. No, I muttered, searching through every folder. How could this be happening? Grabbing my phone, I dialed Mike. Dude, I need your help. It's an emergency. Whoa, slow down, Harper. What's going on? My applications, they're gone. All of them. Can you come over? While waiting for Mike, Vanessa sauntered back into my room. Still working on those applications, little sis. You know, there's no shame in applying to community college. Not everyone can handle the pressure of med school. I gritted my teeth. Thanks for the advice, Vanessa, but I got this. She shrugged, a smirk playing on her lips. Just looking out for you. Wouldn't want you to be disappointed when the rejection letters start rolling in. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Thank God, Mike was here. As Mike worked his tech magic, Vanessa's words kept replaying in my head. Something felt off. Hey Harper, I think I found something, Mike said, his voice tense. These files weren't just deleted. They were accessed remotely and then wiped. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? Someone hacked your computer, Harper, Mike replied, and I think I know who. I followed his gaze to the screen. There, clear as day, was an IP address, Vanessa's laptop. No, she wouldn't, I whispered. But deep down, I already knew. I stormed downstairs, finding Vanessa in the living room with our parents. How could you? I shouted. You deleted my applications. Vanessa's face paled. Vanessa quickly composed herself. What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? Don't lie, Vanessa. We traced it back to your laptop. You hacked my computer and deleted everything. I was shaking now, tears streaming down my face. Our parents looked bewildered. Dad stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. Girls, what's going on? Vanessa's composed facade cracked. You don't deserve it, she yelled. You think you can just waltz into med school and be better than me? I've worked my entire life for this. I stood there stunned. So he tried to ruin my future. My voice trembled. Because you're trying to steal my spotlight. Vanessa screamed, her voice breaking. It's always, Harper's so kind. Harper's so smart. What about me? I'm the one who's supposed to be the doctor in this family. Mom gasped. Vanessa, how could you say such things? But Vanessa was on a roll now, years of pent-up jealousy pouring out. You have no idea what it's like, always feeling like I have to be perfect. Always knowing Harper's right behind me, ready to take my place. Take your place. I was incredulous. I've never tried to compete with you, Vanessa. I just wanted to follow my own dreams. Dad stepped in, trying to mediate. Girls, please, we can work this out. Maybe we should consider family therapy. No, I cut him off, my voice steely. There's no therapy for this. Vanessa tried to destroy my future. I'm done. Harper, please, Mom pleaded. We're family. We can fix this. I paused at the doorway, my back to my family. Watch me. The days after the confrontation were a blur. I felt like I was drowning, watching my dreams slip away with each passing deadline. But I refused to let Vanessa win. Okay, team, I said, looking around at my friends gathered in my room. We've got a lot of work to do and not much time. We divided the tasks. Sarah would help me rewrite my personal statements, Alex would contact my teachers for new recommendation letters, and Mike would handle the technical side, making sure everything was submitted correctly. As we worked, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. I hesitated before answering. Harper, please come home, she said softly. We need to talk about this as a family. I took a deep breath. I can't, Mom. I need to focus on rebuilding what Vanessa destroyed. There was a long pause. We didn't know. We never saw. We're so sorry, Harper. A lump formed in my throat, but I pushed it down. I know, Mom, but I need to do this on my own now. As I hung up, Sarah squeezed my shoulder. You've got this, Harper. We believe in you. Days turned into weeks. We worked tirelessly, fueled by determination and countless cups of coffee. One afternoon, as we worked, Mike looked up from his laptop. Hey, what about this EMT certification program? He suggested, pointing at the screen. It's a year-long course. Could be a great experience before med school. I leaned in, intrigued. That actually looks amazing. I could get hands-on experience, really see if this is what I want. As I began to broaden my horizons, news from home trickled in. Vanessa's university had launched an investigation into her academic conduct. Apparently, her unethical behavior wasn't limited to sabotaging my applications. She's been put on academic probation, Dad told me during one of our weekly calls. His voice was heavy with regret. We had no idea things had gotten so bad. We failed both of you. I sighed, feeling a strange mix of vindication and sadness. We all have a lot to learn, Dad. But right now, I need to focus on my future. Months passed. I submitted applications to a range of schools and enrolled in the EMT program. The work was challenging, often grueling, but it ignited a fire in me that I never knew existed. Then, on a crisp spring morning, it happened. I was at the EMT station when my phone buzzed with an email notification. My hands shook as I opened it. Dear Harper Johnson, we are pleased to offer you admission to Stanford University School of Medicine with a full scholarship. I stared at the screen, tears filling my eyes as the weight of everything lifted from my shoulders. Despite everything, I had made it. I couldn't believe my eyes. Stanford with a full scholarship. I read the email 3 times before it finally sank in. Mike, I yelled, dialing his number. You're not going to believe this. As I shared the news with my friends and family, a weight seemed to lift off my shoulders. I had done it. Despite everything, despite Vanessa's betrayal, I had risen from the ashes and forged my own path. I couldn't help but wonder if Vanessa had heard about my acceptance. Part of me hoped she had, not out of spite, but as proof that her actions hadn't defined me. I had defined myself. Later that night, as I looked out at the stars, a sense of peace washed over me. This was just the beginning of my journey, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. The lecture hall buzzed with excitement as I gathered my notes. 2 years into Stanford Med, and here I was about to present my research to some of the brightest minds in emergency medicine. Taking a deep breath, I stepped up to the podium. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be discussing our findings on innovative triage techniques in mass casualty events. As I spoke, I caught sight of my parents in the audience, their faces beaming with pride. Our relationship had come a long way since the fallout with Vanessa. They had learned to celebrate my achievements without comparing me to her, to support me without suffocating. As the day wound down, I found myself surrounded by friends, colleagues, and family. Mike pulled me into a tight hug. You were amazing, he whispered. I looked around at the smiling faces, feeling that familiar sense of peace wash over me. This was where I belonged. This was the future I had fought for. A surge of excitement ran through me for what lay ahead. The road hadn't been easy. but it had led me exactly where I was meant to be. And that's the end of my story, everyone. Now I've got a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you ever forgive Vanessa for what she did? Or are some betrayals just too deep to move past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Olivia Thompson, a 16-year-old high school student. But maybe not your typical one. I have a passion for art that burns brighter than the sun. Unfortunately, in my house, it might as well be a flickering candle. I live with my parents, Mark and Linda, and my adopted sister, Emma. She's 14 and the apple of their eye. Olivia, have you seen Emma's latest test scores? Mom's voice cuts through the silence as I sketch in the living room. I sighed and set down my pencil. No, Mom. How did she do? Perfect score, as usual. We're so proud of her. I force a smile, but inside I'm screaming. It's always about Emma's achievements. Meanwhile, my latest art piece sits forgotten in the corner, gathering dust. Later that day, I vent to my best friend Zoe over the phone. I swear, Zoe, it's like I'm invisible in my own home. That's rough, Liv. But hey, didn't Mr. Johnson love your last painting? She reminds me. I smile, thinking about my art teacher's praise. Yeah, he did. At least someone notices. The next day at school, Mr. Johnson pulls me aside after class. Olivia, I've got some exciting news about an upcoming art competition. My heart races with excitement, but then a sharp pain in my stomach makes me wince. Are you okay? Mr. Johnson asks, concern written on his face. Yeah, just a stomach ache. It's nothing. I brush it off. The truth is, I've been having these pains for weeks, but I haven't told anyone. My parents are too busy with Emma, and I don't want to be a burden. That evening at dinner, I'm pushing food around my plate, the pain growing worse. I stay quiet. Emma, tell your father about your science project, Mom gushes. Emma launches into a detailed explanation, and I tune out. Suddenly, a sharp pain makes me gasp. Olivia, what's wrong? Dad finally notices. Nothing, I mutter, but cold sweat beads on my forehead. Are you sure? Mom asks, but before I can answer, her attention shifts back to Emma. I excuse myself and head to my room, clutching my stomach. As I lie in bed, I hear my parents talking in the hallway. Should we call Dr. Peterson about Olivia? Dad asks. Oh, I'm sure it's nothing, Mom dismisses. Did you see Emma's project outline? It's brilliant. Tears sting my eyes. Even when I'm in pain, I'm an afterthought. The next day at school, I'm in art class, trying to focus on my canvas. The pain is unbearable, but I grit my teeth. Mr. Johnson is explaining a new technique when suddenly the room starts spinning. Olivia? Mr. Johnson's voice sounds distant, but I can't respond. The last thing I remember is the cold floor rushing up to meet me. When I come to, the world is blurry, slowly coming into focus. I'm in a hospital bed, the antiseptic smell stinging my nose. My stomach feels like it's on fire. Olivia, can you hear me? A doctor I don't recognize is leaning over me. I try to nod, but even that small movement sends waves of pain through my body. I'm Dr. Chen. You're in the hospital. Your appendix ruptured, and we need to operate immediately. Suddenly, my parents burst into the room, looking flustered. Olivia, what happened? Mom asks, but before I can respond, her phone chimes and she glances at it. Dr. Chen turns to them, serious. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Olivia's condition is severe. The infection could spread if we don't operate quickly. Dad nods but is busy tapping away on his phone. How long will the surgery take? We have a commitment later. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Dr. Chen looks shocked. Sir, your daughter's life is at risk. This isn't a minor procedure. Just then, Zoe rushes in. Liv, oh my God, are you okay? She grabs my hand, and I feel a lump in my throat. At least someone cares. As they prepare me for surgery, I drift in and out of consciousness, catching pieces of my parents' conversation. Mark, we can't miss Emma's science fair. She's worked so hard, Mom says. I know, Linda. Maybe we can take turns. One of us stay here, the other go to the fair, Dad suggests. I want to scream to tell them. I need them both, but the pain is overwhelming. The next thing I know, I'm being wheeled into the operating room. Dr. Chen looks concerned. Olivia, we're going to do everything we can. The rupture is quite severe, so there might be complications. As the anesthesia begins to take effect, I catch a glimpse of my parents standing by the door. Mom is on the phone. Emma, sweetie, don't worry. We'll be there for your presentation. Your sister's just having a small procedure. Small procedure? Tears slip down my cheeks as the world fades to black. When I wake up, I'm groggy and sore. Zoe is sitting by my bedside, not my parents. Hey, sleepyhead, she says softly. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, I croak. Where are my parents? Zoe hesitates. They had to leave. Emma's science fair, remember. I close my eyes, fighting back the tears. Of course. Emma's science fair was more important than my life-threatening surgery. Dr. Chen enters, looking tired but relieved. Olivia, you gave us quite a scare. There were some complications during the surgery due to the severity of the rupture, but we managed to get everything under control. Complications? Zoe asks, squeezing my hand. Dr. Chen nods grimly. The infection had spread more than we initially thought. For a while, we were concerned. He trails off, then forces a smile. But you're a fighter, Olivia. You pulled through. I try to process the weight of his words. I could have died, and my parents aren't even here. When can I go home? I ask, though the word home feels hollow now. We'll need to keep you here for a few days to monitor for any post-operative complications. Dr. Chen explains before leaving. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Mom. Hope you're feeling better, sweetie. Emma won first place. We're taking her out to celebrate. Rest up. We'll visit tomorrow. I hand the phone to Zoe, unable to look at it anymore. She reads the text, her face darkening. Liv, I'm so sorry. This isn't right. I close my eyes, exhaustion and hurt washing over me. It's fine, I lie. I'm used to it. Hours later, I wake to the steady beep of machines. My body feels like it's been run over by a truck. The room is empty, and for a moment, panic sets in. Where is everyone? Time drags on before Zoe finally bursts into the room, her face a mix of relief and anger. Liv, I'm so sorry I couldn't be here earlier. How are you feeling? Like death won over, I say weakly. Where are my parents? Zoe's face falls. They're not here yet. Emma's science fair ran late, and they took her out to celebrate her win. I close my eyes, fighting back the tears. Even after major surgery, I'm still an afterthought. Later, Mr. Johnson visits, carrying a familiar portfolio under his arm. Olivia, I brought something to brighten up this dreary room. He pulls out my paintings and pins them to the walls. The burst of color against the sterile white feels like a piece of me in this place. You've got real talent, Olivia. Don't let anyone dim your light, he says warmly. His words bring some comfort, but the absence of my family leaves a cold pit in my stomach. Dr. Chen comes in for a checkup, his brow furrowed. Olivia, how are you feeling? Any pain or discomfort? I shake my head, but he doesn't look convinced. I've been trying to reach your parents to discuss your post-operative care. It's crucial that you have proper support during your recovery. Just then, my parents finally arrive, Emma in tow, all smiles and excited chatter. Olivia, honey, how are you? Mom asks, but her eyes keep darting to Emma's trophy. Dr. Chen pulls them aside, his voice low but stern. I strain to hear. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I need to express my concern. Olivia's surgery was far more critical than you seem to realize. There were moments when we almost lost her. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I almost died, and they weren't even here. But you said it was just her appendix, Dad stammers. A ruptured appendix is serious, especially when left untreated for so long. Olivia will need extensive care during her recovery. My parents look shocked, but then Emma interrupts. Mom, Dad, can we go show Grandma my trophy now? To my disbelief, they actually consider it. That's when Zoe steps in, her voice sharp. I've called my parents. They've offered to let Olivia stay with us during her recovery. For a moment, I feel relief, then guilt, then anger. Why do I feel guilty? Why do I need my best friend's family to step up when my own parents won't? As my family leaves, promising to visit soon, though I don't believe them, I overhear Dr. Chen talking to a nurse outside. It was touch and go for a while. If we'd waited any longer to operate, well, let's just say Olivia's lucky to be alive. The words echo in my mind. Lucky to be alive. And where were my parents during that life or death moment? Watching Emma win a science fair. The next weeks blur together in recovery and revelation. I'm moving with Zoe's family, and for the first time in years, I feel seen. Zoe's mom checks on me regularly, making I'm comfortable and taking my meds. Zoe's dad cracks terrible jokes that somehow make the pain more bearable. How's our young Picasso doing today? He asks one morning, bringing me breakfast in bed. I smile, a genuine one this time. Better, thanks. I can't thank you all enough for this. Zoe squeezes my hand. That's what family does. Live, real family. Those words hit hard, but in a good way. Mr. Johnson visits often, bringing news that reignites my passion. Olivia, there's this incredible art program I think you should apply for. It could be your ticket to bigger things. We spend hours working on my portfolio, and for the first time, I feel like my art matters, like I matter. The day I'm well enough to return home, I brace myself for the confrontation I know is coming. My parents greet me with all smiles and welcome homes, but I'm not buying it anymore. We need to talk, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Of course, sweetie. What about? Mom asks, distracted by her phone. I take a deep breath. About how you missed my life-threatening surgery for Emma's science fair. About how you've always put her first, made me feel invisible. The room goes silent. Dad sputters, now Olivia, that's not fair. Not fair? I laugh bitterly. What's not fair is nearly dying alone in a hospital while my parents celebrate my sister's trophy. Emma, who's been lurking in the doorway, suddenly explodes. It's not my fault you're jealous of my success. Maybe if you worked harder. Emma, Mom gasps, but I see it now, the golden child's true colors. I stand my ground. I'm done being your afterthought. I'm staying with Zoe's family until I'm 18. Then I'm out of here for good. The aftermath is chaotic. Dr. Peterson, our family doctor who's known us for years, gets involved. He reports my parents to child services, citing medical neglect. I've watched this situation deteriorate for years, he tells the social worker. What happened during Olivia's surgery was the last straw. My emancipation case moves forward, supported by testimony from Dr. Chen, Mr. Johnson, and others who've witnessed my parents' neglect. Meanwhile, my art starts gaining attention. A piece I created during recovery, a stark emotional portrayal of isolation in a family, wins a local contest, leading to a scholarship opportunity at a prestigious art school. Mr. Johnson beams with pride when I tell him, "You're going places, Olivia. Your pain has become your power." As news of my parents' neglect spreads, their carefully crafted image crumbles. Dad's law firm puts him on leave pending an investigation, and Mom's social circle, once a source of bragging rights about Emma's achievements, turns its back on her. Emma, unused to not being the center of attention, lashes out, but her outbursts only serve to highlight the dysfunction that's been simmering beneath the surface all along. On my 18th birthday, I stand in front of my new apartment, keys in hand. Zoe, her parents, and Mr. Johnson surround me, ready to help me move in. "You did it, Liv," Zoe says, hugging me tight. "You reclaimed your life." I smile, knowing that the girl in that painting, the one trapped in a family that never saw her, isn't just an image anymore. She's me, and she's finally, truly alive. Olivia's journey raises important questions about family dynamics and self-worth. What would you have done in her situation? Is cutting ties with neglectful family members ever justified, or should blood relations always be given another chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and I want to share how I dealt with my toxic in-laws. I'm a 28-year-old marketing executive, and until recently, I thought I had the perfect life. A dream job, a loving husband named Michael, and our adorable newborn son, Ethan. But as I soon discovered, perfection is an illusion, especially when you marry into a family like Michael's. The cracks first appeared at our wedding. I should have seen the red flags, but love makes you blind, right? Sarah, dear, that dress is interesting. I hope you're not planning on keeping that figure after the honeymoon, my mother-in-law, Linda said with a sickly sweet smile. I laughed it off, but Michael squeezed my hand and whispered, "Mom, Sarah looks beautiful. Knock it off." It was just the beginning. Fast forward to Ethan's birth, and the comments escalated. "Are you sure you're feeding him enough? He looks a bit small," Linda would remark, peering into his crib. "He's perfectly healthy, Linda. The pediatrician said so." I'd reply, gritting my teeth. But it wasn't just her. Michael's sister Jessica was constantly around, offering her unsolicited advice. You know, Sarah, if you're struggling with motherhood, I'd be happy to take Ethan for a few days. I've always wanted a baby. I held Ethan a little tighter and forced a smile. Thanks, Jess, but we're doing just fine. Then there was Robert, my father-in-law, the puppet master of this dysfunctional family circus. He loved to lecture about family legacy and the importance of presenting the united front. Thompson men are made of stern stuff, he'd bellow. That boy needs discipline from day one. Every time Robert spoke, I saw Michael tense up. There was history there, but Michael would brush it off whenever I asked. Things finally came to a head when Robert announced he was organizing a grand family photo shoot to celebrate Ethan's birth. We need to show the world what a strong, successful family we are, he declared one night over dinner. I could feel the tension in the room. Linda fiddled with her pearls, Jessica smirked, and Michael looked like he wanted to disappear. Do we really need to do this, Dad? Michael asked. Of course we do, son. It's tradition. The Thompsons always celebrate new additions in style. As we left that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Michael, is everything okay with your dad? With the family business? He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. It's complicated, Sarah. Let's just get through this photo shoot, okay? I nodded, but deep down, I knew this picture-perfect facade was about to crack, and I had no idea just how ugly things would get. All I knew was that I would do anything to protect my little family. Little did I know that photo shoot would be the catalyst that exposed the rot at the core of the Thompson family. But that's a story for another day. If you want to hear what happened next, remember to like and subscribe. The day of the photo shoot arrived, and the tension was palpable. We gathered at Robert and Linda's sprawling mansion, all dressed to the nines like some twisted version of a Norman Rockwell painting. Sarah, darling, you look adequate, Linda commented, eyeing my outfit. Though perhaps a touch of lipstick wouldn't go amiss. I bit my tongue and focused on soothing Ethan, who was fussing from all the commotion. Michael was unusually quiet, his jaw clenched as he helped the photographer set up. As we arranged ourselves for the first shot, I overheard Ray's voices coming from Robert's study. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept closer, Ethan still in my arms. Dad, you can't keep doing this. The company will go under if... Don't tell me how to run my business, boy, Robert's voice thundered. I built this empire from nothing, and I won't have you or anyone else tear it down. But the auditors? To hell with the auditors, Robert snapped. This is family, Michael. We protect our own. I hacked away, my mind racing. What was going on with the family business? Before I could process it, Jessica appeared out of nowhere, her eyes gleaming. Eavesdropping, Sarah? How unbecoming. I was just looking for the bathroom, I lied smoothly. She smirked. Of course you were. Come on, they're waiting for us. The photo shoot was a nightmare. Ethan wouldn't stop crying. Linda kept making snide comments about my parenting, and Michael looked like he wished he could vanish. During a break, I took Ethan to a quiet room to feed him. As I was burping him, Robert entered with a bottle of water in hand. Here, let me help, he said, reaching for Ethan's bottle on the nightstand. Something about his tone made me uneasy. I watched in horror as he quickly unscrewed the cap and sprinkled white powder into it. What are you doing? I demanded, clutching Ethan protectively. Robert's face was calm, too calm. Just a little something to keep him quiet for the photos. It's harmless, I assure you. Are you insane? I shouted, my voice carrying into the hallway. You're trying to drug my baby. Michael burst into the room, followed by Linda and Jessica. What's going on? Michael asked, his voice tight with concern. Your father just tried to drug Ethan. I was shaking with rage. Dad, is this true? Michael's face had gone pale. Robert scoffed. Don't be dramatic, Sarah. It's just a mild sedative. We need these pictures to be perfect. Perfect. You're willing to drug an infant for a photo. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Linda stepped in, her voice dripping with false calm. Now, let's not overreact. Robert only wanted to help. Help? This is child abuse. I turned to Michael, my voice firm. We're leaving. Now. As we stormed out, the sounds of the family arguing echoed behind us. In the car, Michael was silent, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. Michael, talk to me. What's really going on with your family? He sighed heavily. It's worse than I thought, Sarah. Much worse. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I glanced at Ethan, sleeping peacefully in his car seat, unaware of the storm brewing around him. One thing was clear: I had to protect my family, and to do that, I needed to uncover the truth about the Thompsons, no matter how ugly it was. After the photo shoot fiasco, Michael and I decided to distance ourselves from his family, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on. Michael, we need to talk about your dad's company, I said one night after putting Ethan to bed. He rubbed his temples, looking exhausted. I know, Sarah, it's bad. Dad's been cooking the books for years. What? How bad? Millions, maybe tens of millions. I've been trying to fix it, but he won't listen. My stomach dropped. We need to do something. What if this affects us? What about Ethan's future? Michael looked torn. They're still my family. Family doesn't drug babies or commit fraud, Michael. That's when I decided to dig into Robert's business on my own. Late nights at the office turned into amateur detective work. I reached out to former employees, scored public records, and even hired a private investigator. One day, I hit the jackpot. Michael, look at this, I said, showing him the documents. Your dad's former business partner, Jack Reeves, he lost everything when your dad pushed him out. Michael's face paled. I remember Jack. Dad always said he was incompetent. That's why they split. Well, according to these documents, your dad framed him for embezzlement. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Linda. Sarah, dear, can we talk? I need to tell you something. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a cafe. I know Robert's done terrible things, Linda said, her hands trembling as she held her coffee cup. I've covered for him for years. The emotional abuse, the manipulation, I just couldn't take it anymore. Why now, Linda? Why are you telling me this? Because I'm scared for you and Michael. Robert's getting desperate. He knows you're digging. As I left the cafe, my mind was spinning, but before I could process Linda's words, my phone rang again. This time, it was Jessica. Sarah, I heard you met with Mom. Listen, we need to talk. Can you come over? I should have known better, but I went, and it was a big mistake. You need to back off, Jessica hissed the moment I walked through the door. You have no idea what you're messing with. Are you threatening me, Jess? I'm warning you for your own good. Drop this crusade of yours, or things will get ugly. I left Jessica's place fuming. When I got home, Michael was pacing in the living room. Where have you been? I've been calling for hours. Getting threatened by your sister, that's where. Michael's face fell. Sarah, maybe we should let this go. It's tearing the family apart. I couldn't believe my ears. Let it go. Your father tried to drug our son. He's ruined people's lives, and you want to just let it go. It's complicated, Sarah. You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly. You're scared of your father. Well, I'm not. Someone has to stop him, and if you won't, I will. I stormed out of the room, my mind made up. I had all the evidence I needed. It was time to take Robert down, with or without Michael's help. The Thompsons had no idea what was coming their way, and I was done playing nice. It was time for justice, served ice cold. 6 months after the photo shoot disaster, Robert organized another family gathering. The invitation arrived in our mailbox like a ticking time bomb. We have to go, Michael said, his voice strained. I nodded, a plan already forming. Oh, we'll be there, all right. The day of the gathering, I felt eerily calm as we pulled up to the Thompson mansion. I squeezed Michael's hand. Whatever happens in there, remember I love you, I said. He looked at me, confused. Sarah, what are you planning? I just smiled and got out of the car, Ethan in my arms. The house was buzzing with family members and business associates. Robert was holding court in the living room, all smiles and fake cheer. When he saw us, his eyes narrowed slightly. Michael, Sarah, so glad you could make it. And there's my grandson. I plastered on a smile. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Robert. As the evening progressed, I kept my eye on the door. Right on cue, Jack Reeves walked in, looking nervous but determined. Robert's face strained of color. Jack, what are you doing here? I invited him, I said, stepping forward. I think it's time for some truth, don't you? The room fell silent as Jack began to speak, laying out years of Robert's fraud and manipulation. I added my own evidence, emails and financial records flashing on the TV screen. This is ridiculous, Robert sputtered. You can't believe this nonsense. But the damage was done. Business associates muttered, edging toward the door. Linda stood up, her voice shaking. It's all true. I've known for years. I can't keep quiet anymore. Jessica jumped in, desperate to salvage the situation. Daddy would never do something like this. Sarah's obviously manipulated these records. Her defense backfired spectacularly when I revealed her complicity in some of Robert's schemes. The gathering descended into chaos. Robert was shouting, Linda was crying, and Jessica was frantically dialing her lawyer. In the midst of it all, Michael turned to me, his eyes wide. You did all this. I nodded, holding Ethan close. Someone had to. As we left the crumbling Thompson empire behind, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. A year later, life looked very different. Robert's company was under federal investigation, and he was facing potential jail time. Linda had filed for divorce and was in therapy, finally breaking free from decades of abuse. Jessica, her reputation in tatters, had moved across the country. Michael and I focused on our own little family, our careers flourishing now that we were free from the toxic Thompson influence. We kept minimal contact with Michael's family, prioritizing Ethan's safety and our own peace of mind. As I watched Ethan play in our backyard, I reflected on the past year. It hadn't been easy, but standing up to the Thompsons was the best decision I ever made. Sometimes, the only way to deal with toxic people is to cut them out completely and let karma do its work. In the end, living well really is the best revenge. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you discovered your in-laws were involved in illegal activities that could potentially harm your child, would you expose them, even if it meant tearing your spouse's family apart? What would you do in Sarah's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinions matter, and I'd love to hear how you'd handle such a complex family situation. If you enjoyed this story of justice and standing up against toxic behavior, please hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories of triumph over adversity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, I'm Cassandra, and I've got a story that'll leave your head spinning. I'm a 30-year-old elementary school teacher, married to Michael for 5 years. We've been trying for a baby, forever, it feels like, but no luck? It's been a tough road, let me tell you. Cass, maybe we should consider other options, Michael said one night, his voice soft but serious. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of hope and fear. You mean, adoption? He smiled, squeezing my hand. Yeah, what do you think? My heart raced. I think it's perfect. The next day, I'm having coffee with my best friend, Olivia. She's a social worker, so she knows the ins and outs of adoption. So, you're really going through with it? Olivia asked, eyes wide. We are, I said, grinning. But there's just one problem. Olivia groomed. Let me guess. Victor? Ah, Victor. My father-in-law, the bane of my existence. If migraines had a human form, it'd be him. He's obsessed with carrying on the family name. I mimicked his pompous tone. When are you two having grandkids? I swear, he asks us every time we see him. Just then, my phone buzzed. Speak of the devil. Cassandra. Victor's voice boomed through the speaker. When are you and Michael coming over for dinner? We need to discuss the family's future. I rolled my eyes at Olivia. We'll be there, Victor. Actually, we have some news to share. After I hung up, Olivia looked worried. Are you sure you want to tell him about the adoption? I sighed. We have to. Better to rip off the band-aid, right? Later, as Michael and I were getting ready for the dreaded dinner, his sister Rebecca called. Good luck, she said. Dad's in rare form today. He's been going on about bloodlines all day. Michael glanced at me, concern in his eyes. Maybe we should wait. I shook my head. No, we need to do this. We can't let your dad control our lives. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself. This dinner could change everything, but no matter what Victor said, I knew in my heart we were making the right choice. Ready? Michael asked, keys in hand. I nodded. Ready as I'll ever be. The big family dinner felt like walking to my own execution. Michael squeezed my hand as we walked in, but it didn't ease my nerves. As usual, Victor dominated the conversation. The Johnsons next door just had their third, he said between bites. Now that is a family, carrying on a legacy. I couldn't take it anymore. Actually, Victor, we have some news, I said, my voice firm. Michael nodded, taking a deep breath. Mom, Dad, we've decided to adopt. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then all hell broke loose. Adopt? Victor roared, slamming his fist on the table. Have you lost your minds? No grandchild of mine will be some stray picked up off the street. Dad, please, Michael began, but Victor cut him off. This is your doing, isn't it? Victor pointed at me, his eyes blazing with fury. Poisoning my son with this nonsense about adoption. What about our bloodline? Our legacy? I stood, my body shaking with anger. A child isn't a pedigree dog, Victor. Love makes a family, not DNA. Victor's face turned an alarming shade of purple. Get out, he hissed. Get out of my house, you family-wrecking witch. I looked at Michael, hoping, begging for him to say something, but he just sat there, eyes down, silent. Michael, I whispered, but he wouldn't look at me. I said get out, Victor bellowed, grabbing my arm. I yanked myself free, but as I moved toward the door, Victor slammed it shut on my fingers, sending a wave of searing pain through my hand. Still, Michael didn't move. My heart shattered as I stumbled outside. Suddenly, I felt a hard shove from behind. I tried to catch myself, but it was too late. I tumbled down the front steps, pain exploding through my body as I hit the ground. Through the haze, I heard screaming. Victor, what have you done? It was Elena's voice, shrill with panic. Rebecca was at my side in an instant. Cass, oh my God, are you okay? I tried to sit up. Everything hurts, I mumbled, barely conscious. Where's Michael? Through the haze, I could see his shocked face framed in the doorway, still standing inside, unmoving. The next few hours blurred together, a whirlwind of hospital rooms, police questions, and endless waiting. X-rays revealed a sprained wrist and some nasty bruises, but no broken bones. Small mercies, I suppose. Michael finally showed up, pale and shaken. Cass, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Dad, I cut him off, my voice cold. Save it, Michael. You stood there and did nothing while your father assaulted me. I don't want to hear it. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I think you should go. The days that followed were rough. I stayed with Olivia, unable to face going home. Michael called and texted constantly, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. You need to report this, Olivia urged. Victor can't get away with what he did. I shook my head. It's my word against his. And you saw how Michael reacted. They'll probably back up whatever story Victor comes up with. That's when Victor's neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, knocked on the door. I heard what happened, he said, holding out his phone. I think you need to see this. There, on his security camera footage, was the truth. Victor shoving me down the stairs. I felt a wave of relief and dread. Finally, there was proof. But now I had a decision to make. As I stared at the footage, one thing became crystal clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The days after the incident were like walking through a fog. I stayed at Olivia's place, unable to face going home. Michael's calls shifted from frequent to occasional, each one more distant than the last. Cass, you need to come home, he said during one call. Dad's really sorry. He wants to apologize. I scoffed. Apologize? He shoved me down the stairs, Michael. He says it was an accident. Maybe if I hadn't provoked him. I hung up, feeling sick to my stomach. Olivia found me crying on the couch later. That's it, she said, fire in her eyes. We're digging into Victor's past. This can't be the first time he's pulled something like this. We spent days combing through public records and making calls. What we uncovered was chilling. 3 domestic disturbance calls at their old address, Olivia read aloud. All mysteriously dropped. I shook my head, disbelieving. How does he keep getting away with this? Money and influence, Olivia sighed. But there's more. I called a friend at the adoption agency. Victor's been sniffing around, asking about ways to disqualify applicants. My blood ran cold. He was trying to sabotage our adoption. That was the last straw. I marched over to the house, my house, and found Michael there. What's going on, Michael? Why are you letting your father control our lives? Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. You don't understand, Cass. Family is everything to Dad. He just wants what's best. Best? I exploded. He assaulted me, and now he's trying to stop us from adopting. That's not true, Michael muttered, his voice growing defensive. You're blowing things out of proportion. I stared at him, the man I thought I knew suddenly a stranger. Who are you? What happened to the man I married? Michael's face hardened. Maybe that man finally grew up, realized the importance of family legacy. Legacy, I scoffed. Is that what we're calling abuse now? You know what? Michael snapped. I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. The world stopped. A divorce? Dad's right. We want different things. And frankly, I'm tired of your lies about him. I left in a daze, barely able to comprehend how my life had fallen apart so spectacularly. The next day, Rebecca showed up at Olivia's, looking nervous. I found something, she whispered, handing me a flash drive. Dad's been intervening in family matters for years, sabotaging relationships, controlling inheritances, all to protect the bloodline. I scrolled through the files, my horror growing with each new revelation. Rebecca, how long have you known? She looked away. Too long. I'm sorry, Cass. I should have said something sooner. As she left, I felt a spark of determination ignite within me. Victor had controlled this family for too long. It was time to stop him. I turned to Olivia. I need your help. We're going to expose Victor. We can't let him hurt anyone else. Olivia grinned. I thought you'd never ask. What's the plan? As we started plotting, I felt stronger than I had in weeks. Victor thought he had broken me, but he had no idea what was coming. Game on, old man, game on. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of secret meetings and late-night planning sessions. Olivia, Rebecca, and I operated like a covert team, gathering every shred of evidence we could find on Victor's reign of terror. Okay, let's review, Olivia said one night, spreading papers across her living room floor. We've got the security cam footage of the assault, Rebecca's files on Victor's past interventions, and statements from 3 former employees about his controlling behavior. I nodded, feeling a mix of dread and determination. But we need something current, something that shows he's still at it. Rebecca's eyes lit up. I've got an idea. What if we set up a fake adoption agency? One that Victor would definitely try to bribe. And just like that, Operation Takedown Victor was born. We rented an office and set up shop, with Olivia playing the role of the agency's director. It didn't take long for Victor to come sniffing around. I'm concerned about my son and daughter-in-law's application, he said, his tone dripping with fake concern. I have some information that might be relevant to their suitability. Olivia played her part perfectly. Oh, and what kind of information would that be, Mr. Thompson? Olivia asked, her voice cool and professional. Victor leaned in, lowering his voice as if sharing some dark secret. Let's just say I'm willing to make a sizable donation to ensure the right decision is made. Gotcha, you old snake, I thought, hiding my satisfaction. With the bribery attempt now recorded, we were ready for the final act. Victor was hosting a large family gathering where he planned to announce Michael's promotion within the family business. It was the perfect stage for our little drama. As Victor stood to make his speech, I glanced at Rebecca and gave her a nod. She clicked a button, and the large screen behind Victor flickered to life. First, the footage of Victor shoving me down the stairs played for everyone to see. Guests filled the room. Then the video cut to him trying to bribe our fake adoption agency. Finally, a montage of testimonies from people he had hurt over the years played, each story more damning than the last. The room erupted into chaos. Victor's face went from confusion to fury, and then panic. This is all lies, he bellowed, his voice shaking with rage. Michael, tell them this isn't true. But Michael just stood there, frozen, looking utterly shell-shocked. For once he had no words. That's when Elena, Victor's wife, did something no one expected. She stood up, walked over to me, and took my hand. No more, Victor, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. I won't let you hurt anyone else. The aftermath was intense. Domestic violence organizations and adoption agencies quickly picked up the story. Victor's reputation was shattered, and he was facing serious legal consequences for his actions. Michael didn't fare much better. Once people found out he had stood by while his father assaulted me, the court of public opinion turned on him hard. As for me, well, life has a funny way of working out. 1 year later, I'm sitting in the backyard of my new house, watching my adopted daughter, Zoe, play with her aunt Rebecca. Olivia's inside, probably raiding my fridge as usual. Elena calls from the patio. Lunch is ready, everyone. As we gather around the table, I can't help but marvel at my new family. It's not what I expected, but it's so much more than I ever hoped for. Victor is serving time for assault and bribery, and Michael is struggling to rebuild his life, though that's no longer my concern. As for me, I've found my calling. I now run a support program for adopted children and survivors of domestic violence at my school. Sometimes, the worst experiences in life lead you to your true purpose. As Zoe climbs into my lap babbling about her day, I realize something important. Family isn't about blood or legacy. It's about love, support, and standing up for what's right. And that's a legacy I'm proud to pass on. Now that Cassandra's journey has come to an end, here's a question for you. If you discovered a family member was actively sabotaging your life plans and had a history of abusive behavior, would you expose them publicly or handle it privately? It's a tough call, right? Public exposure might protect others but could tear your family apart. Handling it privately might preserve relationships but allow the cycle of abuse to continue. Where do you draw the line between family loyalty and justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you think. If this tale of family drama and triumph over adversity got you thinking, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that challenge your perspective on family loyalty and doing what's right. Trust me, there's plenty more where this came from. Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Carter. I'm about to graduate from one of the top universities in the country with a degree in computer science. It's been a wild ride and I'm really proud of how far I've come. But honestly, my family life, it's a mess. My parents split when I was a kid, and after that, my dad's side of the family pretty much disappeared from our lives, including my Uncle Robert. I've got these blurry memories of him visiting when I was little, like that one time he helped out when we were going through a tough patch. But it's all kind of hazy now. As graduation gets closer, I can't stop thinking about the past. I've worked my ass off for 4 years, and now I'm on the verge of something huge. But there's this nagging feeling that something's missing. Hey Jess, you okay? That's Mike, my boyfriend. He's been my rock through all this college craziness. Yeah, I'm good. Just thinking about family stuff. Your dad's side again, he asks. I nod, biting my lip. I was thinking about inviting Uncle Robert to graduation. Mike raises an eyebrow. The estranged uncle? Are you sure that's a good idea? I don't know. Maybe it's time to build some bridges. I pull out my phone and start scrolling through social media. After some digging, I finally find Uncle Robert's profile. My finger hovers over the message button. What's the worst that could happen? I mutter, then type out a quick invite. Life goes on while I wait for a reply. I'm juggling final exams, prepping for job interviews, and trying to keep it all together. It's a lot, but I've never been one to back down from a challenge. A few days later, my phone pings. It's Uncle Robert. He's accepted the invitation. Holy crap, I say out loud, staring at my screen. What's up? Mike asks, looking up from his textbook. Uncle Robert, he's coming to graduation. Mike puts his book down. Wow, how do you feel about that? I let out a shaky breath, nervous, excited. I don't know. It's weird, right? A little, but hey, if this is what you want, I've got your back. I smile, grateful for his support. Thanks, Mike. I just hope it doesn't blow up in my face. As graduation day gets closer, I throw myself into preparations, finalizing my resume, practicing interview questions, making sure my gown fits. But in the back of my mind, I'm constantly wondering what's going to happen when Uncle Robert shows up. I try to focus on the positives. I'm graduating, I've got job prospects, and I've got Mike. Things are looking up. But the night before, I can't shake this feeling, like I'm standing on the edge of a diving board, unsure if there's water in the pool. It'll be fine, I whisper to myself in the dark. Everything's going to be fine. Little did I know, inviting Uncle Robert was about to turn everything upside down. The big day finally arrives. My hands are shaking as I adjust my cap one last time. I can hear the crowd buzzing on the other side of the curtain. You ready, Jess? My best friend Alicia asks, giving my arm a squeeze. As ready as I'll ever be, I reply, taking a deep breath. The ceremony flies by in a blur. Before I know it, I'm walking across the stage, shaking hands with the dean as he hands me my diploma. I scan the crowd and spot my mom, Lisa, her face beaming with pride. And then, a few rows back, there's Uncle Robert. He actually came. After the ceremony, I'm swept up in hugs and congratulations. My mom pulls me into a tight embrace. I'm so proud of you, sweetie, she says, her voice thick with emotion. Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you. That's when I see Uncle Robert approaching. He looks older than I remember, his hair more gray than brown now. Jessica, congratulations. Thanks for coming, Uncle Robert. It means a lot. He nods and glances around. Can we talk privately for a moment? Curiosity gets the better of me, so I follow him to a quieter corner. That's when his expression changes. So about that loan I gave your mother 10 years ago. I blink, caught off guard. Loan? What loan? The $5,000 I lent her for your education. It's time to pay up. My jaw drops. I don't know anything about that. Are you sure? His face hardens. Of course I'm sure. Your mother promised to pay me back, and since it was for your education, I figure you should be the one to repay it. I'm speechless. This can't be happening. Not today of all days. Uncle Robert, I just graduated. I don't have that kind of money, I say, my voice trembling. His voice rises. Well, you better figure it out. I didn't come here for nothing, you know. I can feel eyes on us. And my face burns with embarrassment. Please, can we discuss this another time? This isn't the place, I plead, hoping to calm him down. No, we'll discuss it now, he interrupts, his voice growing louder. That's when my mom notices the commotion and rushes over. Robert, what's going on? She asks, her voice full of concern. Uncle Robert turns to her, his expression hard. Perfect timing, Lisa. Care to explain why your daughter hasn't paid back the money I lent you? Mom's face goes pale. Robert, not here. Not now. Why not? Seems like the perfect time to me. Families all together. Isn't that nice? He sneers. I look between them, feeling like I'm watching a tennis match. Can someone please tell me what's going on? I ask, my voice barely steady. Mom takes a deep breath. Honey, it's complicated. Your uncle did help us out years ago, but nothing. Uncle Robert cuts her off. I gave you that money in good faith, and you promised to pay it back. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Mike pushing his way through the crowd, concern written all over his face. Everything okay here? He asks. I'm about to respond when Uncle Robert scoffs. Oh, great, the boyfriend. Tell me, young man, did you know you're dating a freeloader? Excuse me? Mike's voice drops, dangerously low. This is spiraling out of control. I need to do something. Everyone, please, can we just take a breath? I say, my voice shaking. Uncle Robert, I had no idea about this loan. I'm sorry, but I can't pay you back right now. Maybe we can work something out later. But he's not having it. Later. I've waited 10 years. Your mother has been dodging me, and now you're trying to do the same. Mom steps between us, her eyes flashing with anger. That's enough, Robert. You want to talk about the past? Fine, let's talk about how you manipulated Dad into changing his will. Or how about the money you borrowed from Aunt Sarah and never paid back? The air feels electric. Years of unspoken tensions are bubbling to the surface, and I'm caught in the middle of it all. What should have been the happiest day of my life has turned into a nightmare. As I stand there, watching my family implode, I can't help but wonder what other secrets are lurking in our past. The graduation disaster left me reeling. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story than just an unpaid loan. So I decided to dig deeper. Mom, we need to talk about Uncle Robert, I said one evening, sitting down at the kitchen table. She sighed, looking exhausted. I was hoping we could just forget about all that. I can't. Not until I know the truth. What really happened with that loan? I pressed. Mom hesitated, then pulled out a box of old documents. It's a long story, Jess. Are you sure you want to hear it? I'm sure, I replied. As we sifted through faded bank statements and old letters, a pattern started to emerge. Uncle Robert's name kept popping up, always tied to money problems. He didn't just lend us money, did he? I asked, my stomach sinking. Mom shook her head. No, he didn't. After your father left, Robert showed up acting like a savior. He offered to help with the bills, but there was always a catch. He guilt me into paying for his car repairs or covering his rent. It was never ending. I felt a surge of anger. Why didn't you tell me? I was embarrassed, Jess. I thought I could handle it on my own. The next day, I called my grandmother. Her voice trembled as she shared her own experiences. Robert, he's always been good at manipulating people. He convinced your grandfather to change his will, leaving everything to him. We didn't find out until it was too late. The pieces were falling into place, but I needed more answers. I reached out to Aunt Sarah, who I hadn't spoken to in years. Jessica, is that really you? She sounded surprised to hear from me. Hi, Aunt Sarah. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you about Uncle Robert. There was a long pause. What do you want to know? Everything. For the next hour, Aunt Sarah poured out years of pent-up frustration and hurt. Robert had borrowed money from her too, promising to pay it back with interest. He never did. Instead, he spread rumors about her, turning the family against her. I'm so sorry, Aunt Sarah. I had no idea. It's not your fault, sweetie. Robert's always been good at covering his tracks. As I uncovered more of Robert's deceptions, my personal life started to suffer. Mike and I got into an argument when I canceled our date night to continue my investigation. Jess, I get that this is important, but you can't let this consume you, Mike said, his frustration clear. You don't understand, I snapped. This isn't just about me, it's about my whole family. I'm trying to understand, but you're shutting me out, he replied, his voice softening. I knew he was right, but I couldn't stop now. I was so close to unraveling the full truth. My job search wasn't going any better either. During one interview, I was so distracted thinking about a lead I'd uncovered on Robert's shady business dealings that I bombed it completely. I'm sorry, but I don't think you're a good fit for our company, the interviewer said, her voice tinged with disappointment. I walked out feeling defeated. Was I throwing away my future to expose the wrongs of the past? That night, I spread all the evidence I collected across my bedroom floor: bank statements, emails, handwritten notes. It all pointed to one undeniable conclusion. Uncle Robert hadn't just manipulated my mom and Aunt Sarah. He'd been exploiting the entire family for years. I stared at my phone, my finger hovering over Mike's number. I needed to talk to someone about all of this, but I hesitated. Would he understand, or would this drive an even bigger wedge between us? As I sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of my family's past, I realized I had a choice. I could keep digging, potentially at the cost of my relationships and future, or I could let it go and move on. But then I thought of Mom, Grandma, Aunt Sarah, all the people Robert had hurt. They deserved justice. And I was the only one in a position to make that happen. I took a deep breath and dialed Mike's number. It was time to let him in on everything. Whatever happened next, I knew I couldn't face it alone. Weeks of planning led to the day of the family reunion. My heart pounded as I watched everyone file into the rented hall, including Uncle Robert. Thanks for organizing this, Jess, Mom said, squeezing my hand. I nodded, trying to calm my nerves. It was time to clear the air. Once everyone was seated, I stood up. I know you're all wondering why I called this reunion. The truth is, we've been living with a lie for too long. I pulled out a projector and began presenting the evidence I'd gathered: bank statements, emails, recorded conversations, all pointing to Robert's years of manipulation and fraud. You little snake, Robert shouted, leaping to his feet. How dare you? But his protests were drowned out as other family members spoke up. He borrowed $10,000 from me and never paid it back, Cousin Tom revealed. Aunt Sarah chimed in. He spread rumors about me to cover up his own theft. As Robert's facade crumbled, the family united against him. The decision to cut ties with him was unanimous. Unexpectedly, my investigation caught the attention of a corporate security firm. Impressed by my tenacity and skills, they offered me a job in fraud detection. Months later, I was thriving in my new career. My family had grown closer, healing old wounds together. Then, the news broke. Robert was facing charges for tax evasion and fraud in his business dealings. Karma's a real kicker, huh? Mike said, showing me the article. I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Justice was served without us having to lift a finger. As I reflected on everything, I realized the importance of standing up to toxic people and the power of the truth. My future was bright, no longer overshadowed by Robert's manipulation. Ready for dinner with the family? Mike asked, grabbing his keys. I nodded, grateful for the stronger, more honest relationships we built. More than ready. Let's go. The story ends here. What would you have done in Jessica's shoes? Would you have exposed Uncle Robert or kept the family secrets buried? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more compelling stories. Hey there, I'm Olivia Thompson. I'm 38, thriving in the real estate business and married to James, the love of my life. He's a widower with 2 incredible kids, Emma and Ethan, who are 14 and 12. Let me tell you, being a stepmom is no easy feat, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. We've built a cozy life in suburban Chicago. James is a top surgeon at the local hospital, and I'm closing deals left and right. Life is good, but then there's Mark, James's brother. Mark, oh boy, where do I begin? He's married to Sarah, and they have 2 kids, Tyler and Mia. Mark is always cooking up some new business idea, but none of them ever seem to work out. I can sense the jealousy in his eyes whenever he's around James. Last Thanksgiving, we had the whole family over at our place. I was in the kitchen, busy making my famous apple pie, when I overheard Mark talking to James. "So how's playing house with the real estate agent?" he sneered. I froze, my hand halfway to the cinnamon. James laughed it off. "Come on, Mark. Olivia's amazing with the kids. We're happy." "Sure, but she's not their real mom, is she?" "How could she be?" It felt like a punch to the gut, but I took a deep breath, pasted on a smile, and brought the pie out as if nothing had happened. Later, while I was helping Emma with her math homework, Mark swaggered over. "Hey, step on Olivia, trying to win them over with homework help." I stared him down. "Family isn't about blood, Mark. It's about love." Emma squeezed my hand under the table, and I knew I had her support. But it's not all drama. James and I share quiet moments too. One night, after the kids were in bed, he sat me down. "Liv, I need to tell you something," he said. "The doctor found a little issue with my heart." My own heart nearly stopped. "Is it serious?" "It's manageable with meds, but it made me think. I should update my will, just to make sure you and the kids are taken care of." I wanted to argue, to say he'd be fine, but I knew he was right. So I nodded, holding back tears. "We'll face whatever comes together," I told him. That night, as I lay in bed, I worried about James, the kids, and even Mark's attitude. But then I heard Ethan laughing down the hall as James told him a bedtime story and Emma's music softly playing from her room. I realized no matter what life threw at us, we were a family, and that's all that mattered. Then came the day that turned everything upside down. It was just another Tuesday morning. I was pouring my second cup of coffee when the phone rang. My world shifted as I heard the news. James had collapsed at work. By the time I reached the hospital, he was gone. Just like that, my rock, my partner, the love of my life gone. The weeks that followed blurred together in a haze of tears and casseroles. Emma and Ethan clung to me and I to them, all of us lost in our grief, trying to figure out how to move forward. Then came the reading of the will. I sat there, numb, barely processing the lawyer's words until Mark's voice cut through the fog. "What do you mean she gets an equal share? She's not even family." I blinked, focusing on his angry, red face. "James wanted to take care of all 3 of us," I said quietly. "This is ridiculous. You manipulated him. Those aren't even your real kids." The lawyer tried to step in, but Mark wasn't done. "You're nothing but a gold digger. You didn't love James. You just wanted his money." I felt Emma trembling beside me, and I finally found my voice. "That's enough, Mark. This is what James wanted. End of discussion." But it wasn't the end. Over the following weeks, I started getting cold looks from family members, and the whispers stopped when I entered a room. Finally, at a family dinner, James's cousin Linda pulled me aside. "Olivia, I think you should know, Mark's been saying some things." My stomach dropped as Linda explained. According to Mark, I had seduced James for his money, never cared about the kids, and was probably cheating on him before he died. The words made me feel physically sick. The worst was yet to come. Emma had a big choir performance at school, and I was helping her with her hair when my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Uncle Mark is here. He looks mad." Alarmed, I rushed downstairs to find Mark standing in the living room, reeking of alcohol. "There she is, the little homewrecker," he slurred. "Mark, you're drunk. Go home," I said, trying to stay calm. "Not until you admit what you did. You stole my brother's money," he shouted. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, wide-eyed. "Mom, what's going on?" Mark turned on her, his voice harsh. "She's not your mom. Your real mom is dead, and this woman is trying to steal your inheritance." Emma burst into tears and ran back to her room. I saw red. "Get out of my house now," I demanded. "Or what? You'll call the cops?" "Go ahead. I'll tell them how you manipulated my brother," he taunted. Just then, Ethan emerged from the kitchen, holding the phone. "I already called them, Uncle Mark. They're on their way." Mark's face paled. He stumbled toward the door, throwing one last insult over his shoulder. This isn't over, Olivia. As the door slammed, I sank onto the stairs, my head in my hands. Ethan sat beside me, worry etched across his young face. Mom, are you okay? I looked at him and then at Emma, her tear-streaked face peeking down from the stairs. In that moment, I knew these were my kids, and I would move heaven and earth to protect them. I'm okay, sweetie, and we're going to be okay. I promise. As I held my children that night, I realized Mark was right about one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It was time to fight back. A few days later, I sat across from Mike, the private investigator. My stomach churned as he slid a folder across the table. You were right to be suspicious, Mrs. Thompson. Your brother-in-law's been busy, he said. I opened the folder, my eyes widening as I skimmed the contents. Embezzlement, gambling debts, loans in James's name. Mike nodded grimly. Mark's in deep. He's desperate for that inheritance to cover his tracks. I felt sick. Thank you, Mike. This changes everything. Later that day, I met with my lawyer, Sandra. Can Mark contest the will? I asked. Sandra shook her head. Not successfully. James was of sound mind, and his wishes are clear. But be prepared, Mark will probably try anyway. As I drove home, my thoughts raced. I had the upper hand now, but at what cost to my family? When I walked into the house, I found Emma and Ethan sitting on the couch, looking anxious. Hey kids, everything okay? I asked. Emma bit her lip. Mom, Uncle Mark called us. My heart sank. What did he say? Ethan spoke up. He said you were lying about Dad's will, that you're trying to steal our inheritance. I sat down heavily, overwhelmed. Oh, kids. Emma reached for my hand. We didn't believe him, Mom. We know he'd never do that. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you for telling me, and thank you for trusting me. We hugged, and in that moment, I realized how far we had come. These kids, who I had feared might never accept me, now trusted me completely. The next day, I took them to their first therapy session with Dr. Rodriguez. How are you feeling about everything? She asked gently. Emma shrugged. Sad. Angry. I miss Dad, but I'm glad we have Mom. Ethan nodded. Yeah, Uncle Mark's being a jerk, but Mom's always there for us. I squeezed their hands, my heart full. Over the next few weeks, we focused on healing. Game nights, movie marathons, and long talks over hot chocolate slowly brought laughter back into our home. Then one evening, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mark standing there, looking haggard. We need to talk, Olivia, he muttered. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. I know everything, Mark. The embezzlement, the loans in James's name. It's over. His face drained of color. How? You can't prove anything. I have enough proof to send you to prison, I said firmly. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You'll ruin everything. Suddenly, the door flew open. Emma and Ethan stood there, phones in hand. Let go of our Mom, Ethan said, his voice trembling but determined. Emma held up her phone. We recorded everything. Touch her again, and we'll call the cops. Mark released me, stumbling backward. You're choosing her over family? She is our family, Emma said, her voice steady. As Mark slunk away, I turned to my children, overwhelmed with pride and love. You didn't have to do that, I said softly. Ethan shrugged. Yeah, we did. You're our Mom. We protect each other. Emma nodded. That's what family does. I pulled them into a hug, marveling at how, in the midst of pain and betrayal, we had forged something unbreakable. That night, as I lay in bed, I knew the battle wasn't over. Mark wouldn't give up easily. For the first time since James died, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, we'd face it together as a family. The annual Thompson family barbecue, once a joyous occasion, was now a minefield of tension. Standing in Aunt Martha's backyard, I clutched a folder, feeling its weight like a shield. It was time to end this. I approached Mark, my heart racing. We need to talk. Privately, I said, nodding toward the garage. Inside, I laid out the evidence, watching Mark's face cycle from red to white to green. You have two choices, back off and get help, or I go public. His eyes darted around like a cornered animal. You wouldn't dare, he growled. Try me. Mark snapped. He lunged, his fist connecting with my jaw. Pain shot through me as I stumbled, tasting blood. Dad, Tyler's voice rang out. His son stood in the doorway, horror on his face. Within seconds, the garage was full. Sarah, Emma, Ethan, Aunt Martha, all witnessing Mark's true nature unravel. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "That's it, Mark. We're done." The police arrived soon after, leading Mark away in handcuffs. The shock on everyone's faces told me the truth was finally out, and there was no going back. Months passed, and Mark's trial became a media circus. Embezzlement, fraud, assault. In the end, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Through it all, Emma, Ethan, and I clung to one another. We cried, we laughed, we healed. One evening over dinner, Emma cleared her throat, her voice tentative. "Mom, we've been thinking." Ethan jumped in. "We want you to adopt us." "Legally." I nearly choked on my pasta. "Are you sure?" They both nodded, eyes shining. "Dad would want this," Emma said softly. I pulled them into a tearful embrace, laughing and crying at the same time. In that moment, I felt James's presence, loving, approving. In honor of James, we used part of the inheritance to start the James Thompson Foundation for Blended Families, a way to help others navigate the same choppy waters we had survived. Tyler and Mia were frequent visitors too. They had lost their father to his own demons, but they gained a support system in us. Today, we stood at James's grave. The air was crisp, leaves crunching under our feet. Emma laid flowers on the headstone. "Hey, Dad, we miss you," she whispered. Ethan grinned. "Remember when he tried to teach us to fish and fell into the lake?" We laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet cemetery. As we walked back to the car, I marveled at my children, strong, compassionate, and resilient. They had faced loss and betrayal, but had come out shining. "Ice cream," I suggested. "Race you to the car." Ethan bolted, Emma close behind. As I slid into the driver's seat, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back was stronger, wiser, and more complete than she had ever been. "Thanks, James," I whispered. "I'll take good care of our family." As we drove away, the car filled with laughter, I knew that whatever life threw at us, we'd face it together, bound not by blood, but by love. Stronger than any legal document or DNA test could ever prove. The road ahead was open, full of possibility, and for the first time in a long while, I couldn't wait to see where it would lead us. As for your question, if I were in Olivia's shoes, I'd have given Mark a chance, but with firm boundaries. Everyone deserves the opportunity to change, but some actions, like betrayal and violence, are hard to forgive. Sometimes protecting your family means cutting toxic ties. What about you? Would you have given him a chance?